With this video, we're going to look at how to draw our small rebate box. On the screen at the moment, we have an example of how the box should turn out. The key things to note are that the box is 100 by 100 millimeters square. The height of the box is 70 millimeters, and again, we're using our 12 millimeter thick wood. We do have a small base underneath, and that's approximately 3 millimeters, and that will be made out of plywood later on. For this video, again, we're going to draw it in a very similar way to the way that we would actually do this in the classroom with the real wood. There are obviously quicker ways to simply draw the 3D model, but again, we'll keep doing this in a way that's similar to how we would measure things in the classroom with real wood. So we need to begin by creating a new model. When you're creating a model, again, remember to be using the millimeters measurement scheme. And we'll start by removing our little person. As with our previous models, we're going to begin by creating a representation for our piece of wood. So I'm just going to draw my good old rectangle again, and this time I'm going to make it 100 millimeters long by 12 millimeters wide. And let's zoom in with our extents tool to see that a bit more closely. And again, using my scrolling mouse wheel, I can scroll back just a little bit, and I'll press and hold to rotate and see a better angle. I'm now going to use my push-pull tool to bring that piece of wood up to that 70 millimeter height. And again, I'll use my zoom to extents tool just to take it out. So this is very much like our piece of wood once we've cut it in the classroom. 70 millimeters tall, 100 millimeters long, and 12 millimeters thick. Let's begin by drawing our rebate joints. So we start that by using our tape measure, and we're going to draw some construction lines going from the ends of each piece, and they're going to be 12 millimeters into the wood. Now this is the same as we would draw this on a real piece of wood, and it's 12 millimeters because that is the thickness of the wood that's going to go into these rebates. There we go. So I would have a piece of wood coming out from here that would be the same 12 millimeter thickness. Now I could really quickly just draw a rectangle here and push it in the 6 millimeters, knowing that that's what I want. But as we said in the introduction, we're going to measure this up in very much the same way as we would have to do on a real piece of wood. So what I'm going to do here is rotate around. I'm just going to measure half of my thickness. So again, using my construction line, going down 6 millimeters. And I'm again going to do the same thing on the top. This is definitely overkill for a modeling purpose, but because we're trying to simulate what we're doing in real wood, it's worth the effort and the practice. Okay, so I have now all my measurements. No, I've made a mistake with that one. Let's just rub that line out. We didn't go down on the surface, we went out into the void, so let's try that one again. This is a good example of why it's often important to rotate your material so you can be really sure of what you're doing. That's better, they're all on the surfaces now. Okay, I'm now going to use my pencil tool, and again, very much like in the real world, I'm going to draw a line across here. I'll be using my square for this. I'm going to draw a line across here. I would use my ruler for this. On the sides, I'm going to just take it over and down to that line, and then join them up again. This is very much like what I would be doing in the real world, and I'll rotate this side around and do basically the same thing. Okay, there we go. So I've created this part here that would be my rebate. At this point, I would cut my cut my curve and my line down here to create a breaking point, and then I'll put this into the vise and I'll chisel this section out. In the 3D modeling world, what I'm going to do now, take this shape, use my push-pull tool, and I'm going to push it down by that 6 millimeters to that line I drew. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rub out most of my construction lines. So I'm going to take this one out, this one out, this one, and this one. And just for argument's sake, I'm just going to show you the quick way to do it that we mentioned earlier on this end. We do need it on both ends. So what I would be doing if this was just a model I was creating, I would simply draw another rectangle from that corner down to here. I would have even done the construction line actually. I'd type the measurements in, and then I would use my push-pull tool just to push it in by the 6 millimeters. Obviously a lot quicker than actually measuring all of those out. So let's get rid of that last construction line. Okay, so here we have now our piece with 2 rebate joints that are 12 millimeters wide, 6 millimeters deep, and one on each end. The original piece was 100 millimeters long. As we usually do, I'm going to turn that into a group, making sure I grab everything. And we now have 2 pieces. Okay, now to make our box, we need to have another piece come out from each of these rebates. Now I'm not going to waste my time drawing those the old-fashioned way. I'm going to do it very much like before. I'm going to take my rectangle, I'm going to draw the shape in the rebate, because it's going to join there, so you can see a new piece come in, and I'm going to push and pull this out a certain amount. Now before we do that, we need to decide what that measurement's actually going to be. So if you remember in the introduction, we said that the box was going to be 100 millimeters square, so that's 100 millimeters on all sides. Now what we've got to think about is, here we had 100 millimeters across this side, so we can presume the opposite side will be the same. But if we make this piece of wood in the middle 100 millimeters as well, we forgot to take into account the little bit of the rebate here and the matching piece we'll have on the other side. Now, if we've done this properly, that little bit of rebate there should be 6 millimeters and another 6 on the other side. So to have a total of 100, we actually have to make this piece smaller. And if you haven't worked it out already, that means we're going to be making it 88 millimeters. So 100, take away 6 for one rebate, 6 for the other, giving 88 altogether. We'll see that this is correct a little bit later on. Okay, again, as before, I'm just going to quickly make that into a group with the selection tool. Okay, and now we've created the 2 main pieces we need. On the other side, we just need another one of this piece, so I'm simply going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. Here's one. And using the fact that things like to lock together, I'm going to take that corner and lock it to that corner. And now we need another one of this piece. So let's grab that. Same as before, copy it, paste it. Didn't paste, sorry, copy it. Why is that not pasting? There it is. Okay, pasted it in. Now it is, of course, backwards. So we can get our compass tool out and we can rotate it around. But one other thing you can also do is if you right click on that piece, there's actually these built-in flip options, which will basically flip it around 180 degrees on either the red, green, or blue axes. Now it does take a bit of getting used to as to which axis is which, but if I choose the green axis, I actually get that piece flipped 180 degrees, and that comes out exactly the way I want it. So that's a quick way of doing this particular task. And again, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that everything wants to lock together, and I'm going to lock that corner in with that corner there. So I now have my box. Let's confirm what we talked about before was correct. So we're going to use a tool we may not have used before, and it's this tool here. It's the dimension tool. And it basically allows us to take 2 points on either end, and it will tell us the actual measurement. Now this obviously will only work if we've been doing our measurements accurately. That means not just drawing the shape, but actually putting real dimensions in, which of course we have. So we can use this dimension tool. Let's first just look at the point from here, the very outside point, across to the very outside point. I'll just move it out, and you can see it's saying that that distance in total is 100, which is exactly what we wanted. Let's just zoom in a little bit closer, and I'm going to see from there across, as I predicted before, as I said before, is 6 millimeters. Now I can't lock that in because it's not actually a point, so I'm just going to change that. Let's do it from here to the end point here, and we can see the 6 millimeters there, and 6 millimeters of course will be over here. And of course, as we worked out, this piece, this measurement we came up with was 88. So we have all our correct measurements showing up. Now that dimension tool can be really, really useful, especially if you've drawn things without necessarily measuring them. Some pieces you might be able to work out, such as the 88 later on. Let's just remove those measurements. We can remove them very much like we would a construction line, just with our rubber, just rubbing over the piece that we want. Okay. The last thing we need to do is to put our base on. Now, the quickest way we're going to do that at the moment is we're simply going to rotate this around. So again, if you've got your wheel mouse, it's a lot easier. I'm rotating it around so I can see what would be the bottom. And I'm just going to do it really quickly by drawing a rectangle from one corner to the other. There it is. And I'm then going to push and pull that by downwards, and I'm going to make it 3 millimeters because that's how thick our plywood is. Okay, so we've got a base on it now. Now, I do want to make that base into a group, and it's a little bit tricky to get an angle now that's going to let me select all of the base without selecting any of this. So I'm going to do one other thing that we may not have done before, and that is to hide some of these pieces. Now, because each one of these sides is its own group, we can click on one, we can right click, and we can go hide. And it looks like we've deleted it, but in fact, all we've done is hidden it. Now, hiding something is great because it means it's not affected by anything you're doing right now. So we can now select everything here and easily make a group without worrying about accidentally choosing other pieces. Now, the question might be, how do we bring them back? So, there's a few ways. There is an option here, but the quickest way is to come across to your little glasses view over here, to the display, and you can tell it what to show. What you'll notice up the top is we have a section called Unhide, and you can basically unhide all the hidden items, a selected hidden item, or the last item you hid. We won't go into these right now, but we'll just click the all, and as we can see, everything has now come back. We'll just pop that out of the way. So we now have our model all correctly drawn with the correct rebate joints and a base. We can go ahead and color that, decorate it in different ways to show how it might look, but we now have a completed task. Off you go and good luck.